It's March 2024. March is Women's History Month, and this edition of Robert Reads takes a look at Victorian era poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was born in March of 1806 in the county of Durham, England, and she was a prominent Victorian poet, mostly known for her passionate verse and advocacy for those who would be considered socially oppressed. Despite suffering from poor health in her early years, she demonstrated a remarkable talent for poetry from a very young age. She published her first collection, an essay on mind with other poems, at the age of 14. And her reputation as a poet flourished with the publication of her great work, Sonnets from the Portuguese. You can find versions of this collection, this anthology. It's often accompanied with her other great piece, Aurora Leigh, which is, in a sense, a poetic novel. Anyway, the sequence of 44 sonnets that made up Sonnets from the Portuguese, they were mostly inspired by her courtship with fellow poet Robert Browning, whom she married in 1846. These are deeply personal and introspective pieces of verse, all formed in the sonnet form. They were written during a period of very intense emotional turmoil, and she was actually quite ill at the time. They are considered some of the finest love poems in the English language today. Now, in addition to her love poetry, Browning also was a very prolific writer on social and political issues. She addressed themes such as slavery, women's rights, and child labor in her work. And her anti slavery sentiments were expressed in powerful poems like The Runaway Slave at Pilgrim's Point, that was published in 1847. It drew a lot of attention to the brutality of the slave trade and basically acted as a call for its abolition. Now, her influence extended beyond the literary sphere. She actually had influenced quite a few other poets of her age, including Edgar Allan Poe, who dedicated his anthology, The Raven and Other Poems, to her, and also, clearly had an influence on American poet Emily Dickinson as well. Her poem, The Cry of the Children, was a searing indictment of child labor in industrial England, and it played a very significant role in shaping public opinion about this, and eventually, basically, really kind of kicked off the legislative reform, which restricted child labor. Now, throughout her life, her poetry remained a very strong source of inspiration and much solace for many of the readers around the world who read her works. Her profound insights into the human condition, combined with her unwavering commitment to social justice, well, it continues to resonate with audiences today and pretty much establishes her a legacy as one of the most important poets of the Victorian era. Change Upon Change, in my opinion, is one of the lovelier um, pieces that were found in Sonnets for the Portuguese. Um, it it basically discusses the evolution of love, from the beginning of a courtship until it's a bit more mature and some feelings have changed. It makes a great equivocation between the natural world and those personal emotions. I think you'll enjoy it. One quick note on the second to last line of the poem, there's a word you may not see often. It's spelled Enow, enow. And in Old English, I've seen actually two different renderings of the poem with different words, but most of them tend to point to this one, so I believe it's correct. Enow in Old English meant enough, and in that context, while reading this, it makes certainly more sense than the other translation, not translation, but edition that I'd seen where the words I trow are replaced for enow. Anyway, just a little tidbit there to better understand the poem. And now, Change Upon Change by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. 5 months ago the stream did flow, the lilies bloomed within the sedge, and we were lingering to and fro, where none will track thee in the snow, along the stream beside the hedge. Ah, sweet, be free to love and go, for if I do not hear thy foot, the frozen river is as mute, the flowers have dried down to the root. And why, since these be changed since May, shouldst thou change less than they? And slow, slow as the winter snow, the tears have drifted to mine eyes, And my poor cheeks 5 months ago, set blushing at the praises so, put paleness on for a disguise. Ah, sweet, be free to praise and go, for if my face is turned too pale, it was thine oath that first did fail. It was thy love proved false and frail. And why, since these be changed enow, should I change less than thou? Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Change Upon Change. And that wraps us up for the month of March 2024, where we took a look at the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and the poem Change Upon Change. Even learned a new word, possibly for all of you, the word enow, which actually means enough. Anyway, we'll be back in April. April is National Poetry Month in the United States. We're going to be doing some future programming at the Alberon Library on April 13th. I believe it'll be a morning program starting around 9:45. It'll be open mic. We'll be giving details about this in the next newsletter, the spoken word newsletter. If you haven't signed up for that, you can do that by using the scan code up above or the link that's there. That'll take you right to registration, and you'll be kept informed of programming and poetry news and poetry history provided by yours truly. Anyway, hope you have a great March, and we'll see you in April. Take care.